Welcome to FilmRiot Mondays. In case you missed it, on Thursday we talked all about me editing the short film Ghost Recon Wildlands War Within the Cartel, which was directed by my friend Avi Youabian. And after all was said and done, I thought it would be really great to sit down and pick Avi's brain about directing and editing, given that he's a very good director, but also an excellent editor as well. He edits for The Walking Dead and all kinds of other things. You really have to check out his IMDb page for everything that he's worked on. But he's also worked on things in a ghost credit situation where he didn't get credit for, where he's the type of person that they call in to fix a movie when it's not working. So the guy really knows his stuff. So I thought it'd be great to sit down with him and get some great info from him for you. So let's do that now.
Logo.
So you started as an editor. That's your main thing.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of editing.
I still do a
And
lot
now
of editing.
you've moved into directing more and more. This isn't your first deal. You've directed before.
Right.
But what does, as an editor, what has that brought to directing for you?
Spending a lot of time with other directors, especially working television. I got to work with so many directors over the years. I was able to learn from them, not just their strengths, but their weaknesses and their mistakes they made. And sometimes they'd be in a cutting room with me in a very therapeutic way. They would just start spilling out little nuggets with me. And it was all conversational. It wasn't supposed to be like, hey, let me teach you. It was more like, let me vent about production because this is a place that's safe.
Editing often is fixing issues that arrive from things you didn't do or did incorrectly.
Or enhancing.
Or enhancing.
That's the word I use.
I love that.
I like to use the word, how can we enhance the scene?
Instead of fix it.
Fixing
Very
it.
nice.
Because
I've been using
it's
that.
never really broken
Yeah.
unless you really haven't enhanced it to its full potential.
Right. But has that brought a big factor to how you direct, just knowing what coverage you needed while...
Yes. I think the most simple approach is don't exhaust your actors with coverage you don't need. I know a lot of directors that just like to shoot a lot of film. And I do the same thing. I actually shoot a lot of coverage. But I don't shoot 13 master shots. I know that I'm going to maybe cut to a master 2-3 times at most, at the beginning of a scene, maybe at the very end of it. So I won't exhaust them to the point where they won't give me the good stuff, the meaty stuff in the close-ups.
Shifting gears a little bit, you directed an episode of The Walking Dead, which is TV, which is very different from more of a traditional feature sort of set. So how different was it between Ghost Recon and, an episode of because they're both, shorter format. They're not 2-hour-long movies.
Right.
How different were those two sets?
Any TV series you work on as a director, you're a guest. There's a family there. There's a machine, hopefully a well-oiled machine that's been there for a long time, doing it a certain way for X amount of seasons. So when you come in, you kind of have to obey a lot of rules. Ghost Recon was different in that it was kind of like a feature or like a TV pilot. They came to me and said, hey, as long as it's in our brand Bible or within this world, you can do whatever you want.
So how much different is all of that compared to from, you've done much more run and gun, smaller crew stuff, and then you've done something like this, which was a massive crew. How much different are those two worlds, or is it extremely similar?
In my experience, it really has to do with the energy of the crew. If they're on board, they'll do anything. They'll move mountains. They're not looking at their clock. They're not waiting for lunch. They're excited to be a part of it, and it's easy to get them to move. In fact, they're already moving. You tell them, hey, after this setup, we're going to turn around. You got your grip department or whatever it is. They're already getting ahead of it versus maybe a team that's kind of there clocking in and clocking out.
Paycheck.
They're here for the paycheck. They're not here. They don't have the fire that we have as filmmakers where they don't care how many shots you have on your shot list. They just want to go home at 7 p.m. and be with their families. And that's fine.
Which actually, that brings me to a really good question is, how do you take, because it's your vision, it's your project. This is like your baby, you're the director, you see it. This is the thing that you're making. So you have a fire in you for it. Yeah. How do you take that fire and give it to the crew? How do you rally them behind you? What's your process for that?
I show them visuals. I think reading a script is different. And most people are probably reading it while they're taking care of whatever other stuff they have going on that day. It doesn't jump out at them. So I always create a visual Bible, and it has everything from wardrobe to the color palette to shots that I've stolen from other movies that I'm referencing saying, hey, this is how we're going to approach this. And now I use Google Slides, which is like a shared presentation document. So I throw in all my cinematography lookbooks first. And that's something I share with my DP. And once we get that to a place where we're happy with it, I'll start sharing that with the crew, and then I continue to add to it. So this link that they have in their inbox is constantly being added.
So just keeping them involved with the process
Exactly.
in any way you can. Do you like keep it in your mind and figure out ways to like subscribe ownership to everyone so they feel like this is, my film too?
I think you have to, or else you'll fail. Anybody who thinks that filmmaking is a one-man band
Right.
is going to make a lot of awful shorts or films that are going to fail.
What about notes? Because huge part of your job is giving feedback, giving notes, switching directions. So when something comes in that it's not just praise that has to come back, when you have to give notes, what's your process for that? Are you just like direct and to the point, or is there a certain way that you approach it?
From my experience as an editor, I learned that if a director gives you notes, they say they don't like something, or they don't like the way something was cut, a strong director will say, this is how I want you to handle it. They'll have an idea or a solution. There are producers I've worked with who have said, I don't like that. Honestly, I don't know what it is. It's not working for me. And one guy said, I'll know what it is when I see it. And I was like, you want me to just like rattle off 1,000 different versions of this until you find out what you like? So what I like to do is always say, here's what I don't like. And I'm very clear. I don't sugarcoat it. I think people go, okay, he knows exactly what he wants. I say, I don't like that because of this. And here's the direction I'd like you to go. Or can we try this?
And just from the editing standpoint, I know from getting notes from you was, even when it was never harsh, even though it was direct and to the point of,
let's talk about editing,
this
Ryan.
doesn't work. I don't like this. It never felt like, oh, I screwed that up. It was like, no, do it a different way. You got this. And I appreciated that approach. I learned a lot from that. It's just like, it was always, you took a wrong turn, but I know you're going to find the right turn. Do this instead.
I'm not just kissing your ass here, but I was really confident in you as a filmmaker. So I was like, all right, great. This is a question for you. I'm curious how it was cutting somebody else's project, because you're used to cutting your own stuff.
Yeah, because I'm obviously director first, and I cut my own stuff, like you said. So whenever I'm cutting, I'm just editing what I already have in my head. Like I've already edited, I'm sure the exact same way. I've edited this scene while I'm directing it. I'm editing it the exact same time. So when I get to that portion, I'm just piecing together, the puzzle that I already have locked in my mind. Whereas, editing your work, the thing that you've directed, that's your vision, it was just this clean slate of, okay, sure, here's the script. And I decided not to read the script anymore. Like, I'm just like, you know what, I've read it, I'm not going to pay attention to it anymore. And then it was just taking the pieces that you had and being like, what could this be? Often I would do a pass of how it was shot, and then being able to think so much differently about a scene than I've ever been able to before, because I didn't direct it, it made me want an editor for my next one, because I was like, man, there's different approaches to this thing. And I got to give it to you, because you kind of gave me that license to be able to do that, because at first I was like, I was being a little precious about it. I didn't want to adjust what this thing was, and you're like, nah, man, go crazy.
No, that's the one.
And you even pushed me further in a few scenes than I was even willing to go. I'm like, oh, I'm changing this scene too much. And you're like, rip this out, move this over here. And I'm like, okay.
That's where I have been successful in my career as an editor, working with filmmakers that have given me complete creative control. Yeah. And I'll point to David Goyer, who hired me on a series called Flash Forward years ago. And when I met him, I said, I excel when you're asking me not to assemble your script, but to give you an editor's fine cut. So that you come in and go, okay, cool. Why did you make all these decisions? Yeah. And ever since then, my approach to editing has just been, hey, let me surprise you. Let me bend the film. If I feel like something needs to be restructured, let me just do that.
You did say that a lot. Surprise me.
Yeah, I was like, let me surprise you. You know what? If you hate it, we can always go back to the way it was scripted. Yeah. I'll have that version roughed out. We can always go back. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, this may work. In that 10th time, we'll go back to the version we had. And why not? Yeah. Why not?
So if you have like a director who's now working with an editor, say for the first time, what's like a big don't do and a do?
Don't rush your editor to see something unless he or she is like ready to show it to you. Make sure that they are actually behind it before they show it to you. I think a lot of directors, and I've had people just say, oh, just show me something. I'm like, it's not ready yet. Because then when I'm showing it to them with all these disclaimers, like, oh, I'm trying to do this and I was working this out. Like, even as an editor, don't show anything that you are not 100% behind, because it's going to blow up in your face.
Yeah.
It's just, they're going to see, a half sculpted sequence, and it might throw them off. Some people don't know how to look at a rough cut. They can't picture the score or the visual effect or whatever it is. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, just 100%. Yeah, that's great. If you're a budding filmmaker, entrepreneur, innovator, domain.com is a place to go when that next idea hits you. When you get a domain extension from domain.com, you're taking the first steps in creating a vision for your brand or idea. The world's top 2 premier and most recognized domain extensions are .com and .net, which means those are the ones that are going to help you build your brand and expand your presence online the best. But of course, domain.com is reliable, affordable, and easy to use, but they're making it more affordable by giving you 25% off their prices when you use the coupon code FilmRiot at domain.com's checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. Logo. So that's it for today. Big thank you to Avi for taking the time to talk to us. And before we get to my suggestion of the week, we have another sale coming. It's the super secret sale. You can find info on that in the notes below, all the details. It's for 3 days, the 25th through the 27th, 40% off all digital downloads. It's going to be 60% for an hour at a certain time, which again, you can find the details for that below. We're going to have flash sales as we always do. We also have a Ryan's Favorite Pack, which will be a free pack after you spend a specific amount of money, which is a collection of different assets that are some of my favorite that we've ever made for the store. So definitely check out the notes below to get all the details on that. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have this guy in my possession as we speak. I'm testing it for a review coming soon. It's the GH5, which I got from my friends at Lens Pro To Go. They hooked us up with it so we could do the review, but they also hooked us up with a coupon code, which is FilmRiot20 for 20% off of any rental over $275, which is good until May 12th. So that's going to be going on until May 12th. So if you are interested in something like a GH5 or certain lenses or cameras, it's always good to rent it first, try it out, see if it is the camera or lens choice or whatever it is for you before you go spending thousands of dollars. So if you're wanting to do that, there's a coupon code to help you get some monies off. Link for all that in the notes below. My suggestion of the week is this video right here called Massive. It's not a short film. It was like this art piece. Justin just sent it to me today, and it's just very interesting. I really love the visuals to it. I think there's something to be taken away from it as far as the visuals and the tone and the music that was chosen with the color grading and the composition and just really good compositing. Just overall, I really found this fascinating. I watched it several times. It's very, very short, but I think worth your time. And until next week, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.